Yes, Governor.
Bob, I think part of the frustration that I sense around the state, on all sides of the issue, by the way, is the lack of finality. We go through a process with these resource management plans that have taken, 5, 6, 7, even up to 8 years. And then a new administration comes along, and this is not a partisan issue, but they change things, they modify it. We've already talked about re-inventory. And the question is, how many times are we going to inventory? When is enough enough? Can we get to a position where we finally go through a process? If we go to do a Washington County lands bill, we have Congress makes a decision. It's final. But it seems like anything else we do, there's no finality to it. Somebody decides to sue on this issue or that issue. We're in litigation ad nauseum. We never come to a completion on this issue. That causes people, particularly in the private sector and in industry, to say, I don't want to play here anymore. I'm going to take my capital and I'll go to someplace where it's all private land. I'm going to go to the Dakotas. I'm going to go to Texas. And for the people that we have in our rural areas of Utah, this has a significant economic impact. And again, we understand there's public lands, but there's going to be some process we go through that we can all have the issues vetted, the pros and the cons, and the discussion and dialogue, and then make a decision, and for heaven's sake, let's live with it and move on.
Well, again, I appreciate I too share that frustration. As an administrator for Bureau of Land Management and I manage 245 million acres, I too wish there was some sort of finality in the decisions that we reach and the actions that we implement. In reality though, these public lands, there's over 100 laws and many more regulations that direct the Bureau of Land Management or have some relationship of how these public lands are to be managed. Over 100 laws and many more regulations. All those laws are not just come through the Department of Interior that we have to comply with, but other regulatory agencies that are also out there enforcing law of the land. Just because we work for the government doesn't mean that we're immune from complying with the law. One aspect of that is Clean Air Act, Clean Water Act, and the list again goes on and on. We have to make sure that our land use plans are in conformance with the law. And every time the Congress amends or changes a law, or another regulatory agency comes out with new regulations that actually does address or have some relationship to how we manage these public lands, then we are required to go back and review our plans for conformance with those new laws or new regulations. And if they're not in conformance, then we have to go back and amend those land use plans to bring them in conformance. So, Governor, I too wish that we could have a land use plan that would be static, that we could all know, how these lands are going to be managed for the future for 10, 15, 20 years until we have new information or until we have new issues that have to be addressed that were not addressed under the current land use plans. But I'm not sure we'll ever get there just because of the dynamics of public land management.
Okay, I saw Kathleen's hand up there. I hope I have the right mic, and I'd like to make this, if I can, if you'll permit me, the last question from the council so we can get to the public. Kathleen Clark.
Okay. Bob, a follow-on to that last comment of yours is that I know you're aware, and this administration has stated its commitment to jobs. In the absence of any certainty, if you say that we can revisit these decisions every year or 2 or 3, whenever there are parties that disagree with the outcome of a given process, then there is no certainty. And we will see industry flee this state. We will diminish our ability to meet the energy needs of the nation, but the economics in this state are going to fall into place. Headlines in today's paper is that Utah is going to lead the way with foreclosures. That's a jobs issue. And in this state, half the land belongs to BLM. And what the BLM does with that land is very significant. It's significant to the ranching community, to the ag community, to the oil and gas industry. That means it's all significant to the taxpayer, to our school children, to others. And would hope that you would provide some leadership to bring some stability to this and to allow
Well, Kathleen, I hope I have the skills to bring that leadership that you desire, and that certainly people that work with me desire as well. You know, let me just say that there's a lot of factors that determine and affect the economy. Public land management certainly can affect local economies. We understand that, we appreciate that, and we try to be sensitive to that fact. You know, I read an article the other day that in the state of Utah, there's 5 million acres of public lands that have been leased for oil and gas development, and a little over 1 million acres is under development. So there's about 4 million acres that's available for production, or at least development, exploration and development. That's not necessarily being drilled. Some of that, some of the reasons behind that is not necessarily drill land management. It boils down to the economics of this nation and whether or not the economics kind of levels out to make drilling economically feasible. So we do understand that we play a role, and as I mentioned, we're sensitive to that role. But there's an awful lot of other factors that come into play that affects our nation's economy, and job loss, and it is felt across the nation in many states where we have no public lands or very little public lands. So we're going to do our best to make sure that our actions are such that provide some certainty to the industries that are operating in this state and on public lands, but at the same time incorporating safeguards so that the public lands that are going to be developed are the public lands that are appropriate to be developed, and that those public lands that should be conserved are going to be conserved through whatever administrative or other legal methods available to us would be applied. You know, it's about balance. It's about balance. And as the local communities look at their own communities, our local elected officials look at their own communities, they too need to make sure that they're doing everything possible to provide the quality of life for their citizens. That includes jobs, it includes the quality of life where people have income, where they can send their children to good schools, and at the same time that there's appropriate open space that people can go out and enjoy without the intensity of the urban development that so many of us get caught up in from time to time. So it's about balance.
Mr. Chairman, I know Representative Hansen is sitting next to me, and he's been assured he'd have the opportunity before you go to public comment to ask a question.
Okay, there's a request to have former Congressman Hansen ask a question or make a statement. Is that okay with the council?
No, if we're gonna follow rules, Kathleen, let's follow rules.
Well, the chair's going to make a ruling to allow him to say a few words, if that's okay with that. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate that, for signing it. As many of you know, I sat on that committee for 22 years, and I also was chairman of this committee, and we had a lot of pieces of legislation such as this go through. I think it's interesting that as I read the statement of the secretary, I respectfully point out to Abby that it flies in the face of the intended Congress, if I may respectfully say so. It seems to be abundantly clear, and I've heard 4 different secretaries of Interior make the statement, only Congress can create wilderness. I know myself as chairman, and other chairmen down in Moudall have made the same statement. I asked 8 lawyers who worked for the committee what their interpretation was of this, and they said there's no way in the world. Anyway, nothing to say. I don't envy your position, sir. You got a tough one, and I appreciate so much Juan. Paul, he's been an excellent deal on director of the state of Utah, and we appreciate that. But when you get right down to it, the Wilderness Act was passed in 1964, and the Department of Forest Service and the Park Department were given the right to do it. In 1976, Flintlock came along, and that put you folks in the game. using exactly the same criteria that was in the original part. And so when it comes right down to it, I honestly think you're fighting a tough battle. There's no question this is going to be litigated. Members of the committee have asked me to come here and listen to this today so I can go back to Washington and give my interpretation of what was said. But you get down to it, and if I may say so, and I don't mean this disrespectfully to anyone, but you get down to the idea, right now the BLM is protecting fake wilderness. There's different places in the state of Utah that's being protected under what's called the Red Rock Bill. There is no such thing as Red Rock Wilderness. That was introduced by Maurice Hinchy from Ithaca, New York, and it was never passed the House or the Senate. There is no bill such as that. So to have the right to do that really bothers me a little bit, being as sensitive to it as I may be. So I appreciate you coming out today. That's kind of you to do that. I've heard only good things about you, and I appreciate it, especially from this young lady right here, who was your boss at one time, I guess. And I thank you for being here, but I really think you got an uphill battle. This thing, in my mind, is going to be litigated to the very end of this deal, and I would hate to see all this work go for naught.
Congressman Hanson, thank you for being here today, and thanks for your comments. You know, we are not contesting that the only people who can designate areas as wilderness is the U.S. Congress. We understand that. We understand that fully. We also do have case law in both 10th Circuit as well as 9th Circuit that directs the Bureau of Land Management to do our job, consistent with the Federal Land Policy and Management Act, to do routine inventories of public lands that includes identifying lands with wilderness characteristics and then using that information as part of our land use plan. So, you know, we didn't go into this issue naively. We understand what the law says. We understand the practice from in previous administrations. We understand where we want to or how we would like to manage public lands, consistent with the goals of the public and their goals for how these public lands should be managed for today as well as the future. We are not creating de facto wilderness. We're creating actions that will protect the characteristics.
Please, ladies and gentlemen, there's no cause for that.
And that's okay. You know, I'm an adult. But we are moving forward to try to manage these lands consistent with how the public likes to see them managed.
Thank you. I'll get right to you, Mike, I promise you. I do think it's only fair, though, to bring out, most of these questions have been very direct and seeking clarity, but I think it's also fair to say, as a chairman of the Balanced Resource Council, I want the other side to be heard a little bit, too. One question in that direction is thank you for the designation. How will you ensure that Utah BLM implements the guidance on lands in our state?
Well, the way we try to assure consistency with any policy that we issue. You know, first and foremost, our offices, our employees deserve direction. This is one issue that they've been left hanging for a number of years relative to how they go about dealing with the issues that continue to be raised by some members of the public relative to the protection of natural areas or lands with wilderness characteristics. There's been no national guidance for a number of years. What we're trying to do with the upcoming final manuals and policies that we'll be issuing consistent with the secretarial order is to provide that guidance. And so that people understand what the expectations are, they understand what the process is, and they understand that this will be a very public process as we use the land use planning process or the land use plans to determine over the long term how lands with wilderness characteristics would be managed.
Thank you. The next question is for Juan Palma. What will be done in the state of Utah to communicate this new decree and work it out with industry and environmental groups?